And welcome back to WPXI.com. Overtime with the Bus, everybody. I'm Bill Phillips along with Jerome Bettis and Gary Pomerantz. And you have your book that everyone is wild and crazy about, and we want to talk about because there's some great stories, not only about Chuck Noll and There's Life's Work, but Mean Joe Green, Jerome. I know you've been leafing through that book while we've been up here.
Incredible stuff about it, and getting an opportunity to talk to him a little bit offset. He's been giving me some great information, especially about Mean Joe Green, which, I mean, his name is not actually Joe, which I didn't know that. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yes.
I want to hear this story.
Well, yes.
Gary,
Okay. Please tell him that story first.
Help me out, because Jerome's not sharing today.
Right.
Other than the Bus, the best nickname in football history is Mean Joe Green. But people don't realize that his given name is Charles Edward Green. And when he was a toddler, you can imagine he was a big toddler, his aunt thought he was going to be the next Joe Louis. So they started to call him Joe. And Joe Green told me he didn't realize that his given name was Charles until he was in kindergarten, because everybody had been calling him Joe.
Isn't that incredible?
That's tremendous.
That is tremendous. You think Mean was the nickname, it is Joe.
But then I guess he just embraced it, and that's what everybody called him.
He ran with it, and you know, Mean Joe Green came about because of the Mean Green in North Texas State.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, he looms large in the imagination still, and not just here in Pittsburgh. But I mean, if you think about the great dynasties in American sports, baseball, the Yankees of the 20s, basketball, the Boston Celtics of the 60s, and the Steelers of the 70s in pro football, who are the defining players in each? Babe Ruth, Bill Russell, and Joe Green. That's pretty heady company.
It is.
It's Mount Rushmore stuff.
It is.
It is. Yeah, it is. It's great.
What is it about Joe and what he was able to accomplish that maybe you could share with us that you learned from him or about him from other people that would surprise everybody? Because we heard so many stories about Mean Joe, and he's lifted, Ike Taylor mentioned, he put the logo on his back and put Pittsburgh on the map when he got here. Is there something that we don't know, we haven't heard yet?
Well, I suspect your listeners, your viewers, are unaware that what a leader he was in the locker room. We hear that term thrown around, you know, all the time. But there's a moment, for instance, in the 1974 season, the first Super Bowl season, when it becomes clear that Joe Gilliam is sliding into drug problems. Joey Gilliam's a quarterback the first 6 games of that year. When Joe Green hears about it, he confronts him. And it was just the two of them alone. And Joey Gilliam says, mind your own business. Joe Green, you don't say that to Joe Green. And Joe grabs Joe Gilliam by the scruff of his collar and said, this isn't about you, it's about the team. And you know, this is the ultimate alpha sport. Joe's the ultimate alpha. And so people would follow him, not only because of the force of his personality, but because he's got an intimidating presence.
And he uses that.
He uses it.
And so, speaking of him using that, was there ever some stories about some players that, you know, everyone speaks of his reverence, but do you have any stories of players really disliking or hating Joe Green for the on-the-field antics?
No. If so, I don't think they're admitting to it.
Nobody wanted to talk about that part.
Listen,
They're all on other teams.
That's right.
Exactly.
They're all on other teams.
Yeah, and you know, they were also thankful to have him there. He was the guy who transformed this franchise. I wonder about fans today, Steeler fans who are 35 years old and younger. They grew up thinking this is a championship franchise. What they may not know is before Joe Green, this team was historically and catastrophically awful. For 40 years, they're walking in the desert. Joe Green shows up, by the way, within 24 hours, so does Chuck Noll as the head coach. And things begin to change. The 1974 draft, then all the Hall of Famers start rolling in.
Now that, you know, everyone knows how he stood up for, you know, his teammates on the field and grabbing guys, you know, when the kicker, you know, made a bad kicker, things like that, when the defense is trying to poke at him. But he also stood up for the trainers. Tell me about that story.
Well, you know, he was like the sheriff of the county, and the county was that locker room. There was one moment that the trainer, Ralph Berlin, shared with me, where there was a rookie who didn't make the team, who was giving the guys in the equipment room some trouble. And so they went to Joe. A lot of times, coaches, when they knew there was a problem, they didn't go directly to the player causing the problem. They went to Joe, and Joe took care of it. In this case, Ralph Berlin, the trainer, is in the bathroom stall. And he hears Joe's voice, and he hears Joe saying to this rookie who'd been causing the problem, you got 3 choices here. Bam! And he slams him against the wall. And now Ralph opens up the stall and is looking out, and he says, 1, you can leave. 2, you can go apologize to them. Or 3, I'm going to kick your butt. He didn't say it quite that way, a little more eloquently, we'll say. And the rookie apologized quickly.
Wow.
That's leadership. That's the guy
leadership.
running the room.
No
He's
doubt
running,
about
everybody
it.
falls
And
in
that's the
line.
guy that's saying, hey, follow my lead or else.
Yeah.
If you don't want to know what the or else is.
Exactly. Well, I know there's a lot of other great stories in the book, a lot of great stories that whether you're a Steelers fan or not, they're going to be great stories if you're just a football fan and a fan of humanity with Chuck Noll and the way he went about his business. Where can we find the book?
Well,
Especially coming up
it's
Christmas
out
season.
in paperback now,
Okay.
and it's available at all local bookstores, available online. And it's a fun time to revisit. It was a magical time here with this team, best football team ever.
It's one of those times now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with Coach Noll passing this past summer, it's a chance to relive all of the things that he was able to accomplish.
And Chuck Noll passing, is there a story, one story that can really kind of talk about him? Because so many people don't really know him as a football coach. They know he was the coach, but they don't know that much about Chuck Noll.
There's a story that J.T. Thomas shared with me. J.T. Thomas, the All-Pro cornerback, where they were in the film room early in J.T.'s career, and J.T. was on kick coverage, and he's sort of falling asleep in the back as everybody is, watching this, and Noll had a way of knowing how to press a player's button. He didn't do it loudly, but he knew he figured out what the button was, and then he would press it. And he says, "JT, is that you at L3, left side, third in?" "Yes, coach." "I'm not seeing that speed, that 4 or 5 speed." And he runs it back, and of course JT's cringing. Then he finally, Noll just says, "Well, the meek shall inherit the earth." And J.T. Thomas's eyes go wide, and he's thinking, JT, the regular reader of the Bible, he goes, "Chuck knows that I read the Bible. Probably nobody else in this room knows that reference. Chuck's gone biblical on me." And that button was pushed.
It was pushed.
Yeah.
Wow. Great
coaches,
story.
great leader. It's a great read, everybody. So if you get a chance, it's the life's work. Let's hold that up so everybody can see it. You got Chuck Noll on the cover. Gary, thank you very much for being here.
Good to be
today.
on with you guys. Thanks,
Thanks for being
Appreciate
here as
that.
part of Overtime with the Bus. Until next time. Oh, we got to get one quick prediction.
Yeah.
Steelers Ravens. You got 10 seconds.
Steelers are going to win this game. Going to be a close game. They kick a field goal late. They win by 3.
They always win by 3. All right, everybody. That does it for Overtime with the Bus. Have a great weekend.